You know what you should do? You should follow me on Twitter at Brommer018. Link in the description. Do it now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another FIFA 21 video. Today marks a premiere for a brand new series on the channel. Welcome along. If you are new, this is where we talk all things football, FIFA, PES, etc. Today we are looking at FIFA 21 and it's a new series, as I say, and what we're going to be doing here is I've identified the best players from different positions to sign depending on the systems you are playing, and we're starting off with the best wingers to sign for counter-attacking systems. Now, I've identified traits that we are going to look at very shortly that I look for in players that are suitable for you to play in your counter-attacking systems, and in particular we're going to be looking at wingers today, left winger and right winger. So this is one that I'm really looking forward to doing. It's obviously a bit of a spin-off from my tactics series that we do on the channel, and if you don't watch that, do go and check that one out as well, where we recreate real tactics. Hopefully you guys can enjoy this. We'll see how this one goes. Let me know what you think of the video down below, and without further ado, let's get into it. So first things first, let me tell you a little bit about how we're going to do this. So we're going to split it into 3 sections. We're going to have players with an overall rating between 60 to 74, and that's really for people who on career mode, maybe they're playing a Road to Glory career mode, maybe they're doing just a lower league career mode in general, or a league with sort of lower rating players, and that's players who will suit those sorts of teams. Then we have the mid-range category, that's 75 overall rating to 82, and that really just sort of suit a whole range of different careers. Maybe there might be high growth players, or there might just be players within that rating that are suitable for your team. And then finally we have the more elite tier, 83 plus rated players. You'll be surprised that we'll get onto it shortly. This was actually harder to find players in that 83 plus range, which is really strange. I didn't really work out why that was the case, but we will get into that shortly. So ultimately that is how we're going to separate it. So we'll start off with the 60 to 74 and we'll work our way up. So really, hopefully there's something for everyone to look at in this system. So, first of all, what traits are we looking for in these players? How have I identified the perfect wingers to play in these systems? Well, first things first, we're looking for players with a high work rate. That's high attacking work rate and a high defensive work rate. And the reason being is, naturally, if you're counter-attacking, it means that you're going to be wanting your players to track back, soak up the pressure, and then hit teams on the counter. So as a result, you want those players to have a high defensive work rate, so they're tracking back as much as possible and filling in the gaps, and then a high attacking work rate, so you know that when you're going forward and you need a lot of movement to have a successful counter-attacking system, a high attacking work rate will then work for you in that regard. So you've got a lot of movement there. In addition to that, we're also looking for high stamina. You can couple that in with the high work rate. Naturally, of course, they're going to have to cover a lot of ground because they're tracking back so much and then getting forward, and they're doing all of this at pace, at high speed and a relatively high intensity. So a high stamina is naturally very important as well, and for anyone who hasn't done so, do check out my stamina tutorial video as well on tips on how to preserve stamina, because obviously it's been something that some people have struggled with this year. In addition, we are also looking for strong foot, strong side. So what I mean by this is, if it's a left winger, for example, a left-sided player, then I want them to be left-footed, and the same vice versa as well. If it's a right-sided player playing a right mid, right wing, then I want them to be right-footed. And the reason why is because generally when you're hitting teams on the counter-attack, you're going to be doing a lot of crossing. Generally most of the space is going to be in the wide areas because the fullbacks may have committed forward. That's where you're going to find most of the space. So you'll be in positions where you need to cross the ball. So as a result, you'll find it much easier for them to ultimately cross the ball in. Now, there is a couple of sort of drawbacks to that, or should I say sort of conditions, and we can lead that into the next one, and that is strong weak foot. So any player who has 5-star weak foot is exempt from the previous trait. I'll be happy playing them on either side, because when they have 5-star weak foot, it means they're playing at 100% capability compared to their stronger foot. So ultimately, if they have 5-star weak foot, they can play on either side. But what I mean by strong weak foot is, yes, a good weak foot, but we have a minimum of a 4-star weak foot requirement. And the reason being is that obviously, if you're counter-attacking, it's all happening at pace, it's all happening quickly. You might be in conditions where, all of a sudden, they have to switch it onto their weaker side. And so naturally, you want them to be good on their other foot as well, their inside foot, because they might be having to cut inside and play long passes through the middle sort of thing. So again, strong weak foot, you want them to be as versatile in that sort of area as they possibly can. The next condition, pace. Obviously, I don't need to talk about this too much. This has always been very important on FIFA, and naturally, it's the same in counter-attacking as well. If you want to counter-attack at speed, you need that pace to go along with the clever movement in order to be, essentially as deadly as you possibly can. Next up is crossing. Again, we've just sort of spoken about that really, of how important crossing is in counter-attacking systems, particularly because also what we didn't mention was that, for a lot of counter-attacking teams, it's because ultimately they're not as good, they're not as confident playing it through the furs and trying to build up possession wise, so they're going to be trying to get into those wide areas more and looking to cross the ball in. So generally, even if they're not in the middle of a counter attack, crossing is still going to be very, very important, because usually you will have maybe a target man, maybe even 2 forwards up there as well to complement that. And finally, for the other trait, we are looking at long passing. Now, this one is not as important as the others. So for some of the players that we're going to go through here, you'll see that long passing has sort of been relinquished and let go. If they've got bad long passing, but they've got so many other traits that are appealing and attractive to me, then I can give it, let that slide. But ideally, you would like long passing. So long passing is important in counter-attacking systems because naturally, to have a successful counter-attack, you want the ball to cover as much ground as possible in the shortest time possible. So obviously, long passing is going to be a part of that. Could be balls over the top, it could be long through balls in general, or it could be just switches of play. Ultimately, you want to try and utilise and exploit the space as quickly as possible in a counter-attacking system. So that's going to be a lot of long passing is going to be required for that. So like I say, we can let that slide if there are other traits acceptable, but ideally we would like that involved. So those are the traits that we look for. And now here is a roundup of the first players that we have spotted in the 60 to 74 overall range. As you can see, we've generally got 3 of each, couple of players who can play on each side. Lewis Morgan, for example, is a player who, he's actually a right winger, but I'm happy to play him on the left because as you can see there, he's got weak foot. We'll just take you through the sort of stats as well. So obviously we've got overall and potential. Remember that there is dynamic potential on career mode, so that can increase or decrease depending on their performances. Obviously we've got height, we've got age in there as well. So as you can see, some, the majority are young, early 20s. We've also got Alejandro Silva there who's 30, but like I say, it's not just about young players. Sometimes you just want good players and sufficient players, and as you can see, he's actually, in terms of his current ability, he's the best player on the list. And he's very, very good. So do bear that in mind as well. Then we have weak foot, as you can see, going into pace, stamina, crossing, and then finally long passing. So as you can see here, particularly for the lower rated players, the players in the 60s, the long passing is in the 50s, and you will find that with the lower rated players. Ultimately, we can't have an ideal world because they're low rated, so naturally they're going to have lower attributes in general. But as you can see here, if we look at Edvardsen, for example, right at the top of the list, you've got someone who might only have 55 long passing and crossing, but the other traits are so impressive that he has to be considered if you're in a lower league. He's 21 years old, he can grow to 9 potential plus more because of the dynamic potential range. Then you've got the 90 pace, 75 stamina, in particular, all in all, very, very impressive for me. Lewis Morgan's another one. I love the 5-star weak foot. That's always a big sort of plus. Not as much room for growth if that is your thing, but again, dynamic potential, but also he's just very good now. He's very, very all-rounded. If you look at his stats as well, you got 85 pace, 84 stamina, 74 crossing. Long passing is improving. Again, but like we say, we can give or take that. And then coming on to, as we mentioned already, Alejandro Silva.
certainly the best player on this list currently. Yes, he's slower than, say, Aurelio Buta, but all in all, far more suited to a counter-attacking system. Much higher stamina, same level of crossing, slightly better long passing as well. And he's also a bit taller, which can always help, particularly with the crossing. So that is it for the 60 to 74 rated. Ultimately, we try and find 6 players to narrow it down to, really, and these were the ideal candidates. Let me know what you think about them. Next up, we have the 75 to 82 range. Have to say, this is where it started to get a bit of a problem to find left-sided players. We did in the end. Unfortunately, a lot of them were right-footed, which was a little bit disappointing. Diogo Jota, right-footed, but 5-star weak foot. So that is, ultimately got no problem playing him on either side. High potential for growth as well. Everyone knows about him. His crossing and long passing, not quite as good, although his long passing is the best on the list. So do bear that in mind. But crossing-wise, could still do with a lot of improvement, as is the same with these players. But you'll notice that the majority are very young, and so they have room to grow, which is very, very important. Dan James is one that I would also have to single out as well. Obviously a right winger, just that blistering pace, high physical traits, good crossing. He's absolutely ideal for a counter-attacking system. In fact, Man United usually exclusively play him when they're really looking to sort of employ that counter-attacking system as much as possible. So worth bearing that one in mind. Jonathan Bamba is another one who very much impressed me. Again, as you can see, room to grow, and he's already 80 overall. So he's one to definitely look out for as well. I'd certainly highly suggest him going forward as well for your counter-attacking tactics, and very, very all-rounded on top of that. I'd say the stamina is the one that really needs to improve the most, because when you're getting into the high 70s, really, for a player who's 80 overall and above, you want that to be more. You want that to be in the 80s. So ultimately, you want to look to be training that up as much as you possibly can. So that's it for the 75 to 82. Now we can finish off with the 83 plus. And as I mentioned at the start of the video, it was extremely tough, which is really, really strange. What you'll find is that the high work rate is the one that really limits the players that you can have for this kind of system. Not a lot of players have high attacking work rates, which is very, very disappointing, but it's so important. So that's why we're really sort of getting rid of the fat, so to speak, and getting to the real meat of the players for this system. We've got the likes of Heung-min Son, who is just unbelievable, the without doubt best sort of option for anything like this. Anyone who watches my tactics videos will see we have suggested him so much. I've actually had to stop suggesting him for the suitable signings because it's just too easy. It's too easy to say that, he's just so good, so talented, 5-star weak foot, absolutely incredible, just so all-rounded. Someone who I'd like to point you to is Marcus Llorente. Now, he's a central midfielder as his base position, but he can actually play at right midfield. And I think this one is really, really good because we've already seen him do it at Atletico Madrid. So we know he's got that sort of stats-wise in him. And you look at his stats, 86 pace, 89 stamina, 82 long passing. Crossing could do with a bit of improvement, but he's 84 rated and he can still improve. As you can see, look, 87 potential. So that can easily grow. He's 6 foot as well, and versatile, which is extremely important for a counter-attacking team, particularly if you want who likes to bed players into other positions when they need to. This can be really, really handy. So Marcus Llorente is definitely one that I think you guys should highly consider for sure. So that's really it for the signings. Let me know what you guys think of this. If you've got any suggestions to improve these types of videos, you want more depth, more detail, or you want something else, some other features, please do let me know. I'm really open to suggestions. Like I say, this is essentially a pilot episode for this series, and we'll really see how this one plays out down the line. If people want to see more of it, I would love to do more of it. I've been planning this for around about a year, and I've just never put it into action. So we'll see how it goes. Let me know what you think of these suggestions. And also, if you've enjoyed the video, please do subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so that you get notifications every time below. Don't forget to leave a like on the video as well if you've enjoyed it, and give me a follow on Twitter. The link to that is in the description. On that note, we are going to finish the video off there. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I will see you soon.